The federal government has today introduced legislation to overhaul how people with disabilities access support to ensure funding goes to people who need it most at a time when NDIS costs have blown out dramatically. And joining us now we have Ross Joyce from the Australian Federation of Disability Organisations. Ross, welcome. The government's focusing on cracking down on fraudsters and scammers. How big of a problem is this?
With any scheme that's of the size that we're dealing with the NDIS, that it's always going to be an issue. And we certainly fully support the government in wanting to crack down on people that are taking advantage of the system or those that are illegally obtaining funds. We see it's really important that that money gets put back to people that require supports in the scheme, the participants.
Minister Bill Shorten said a lot more in his speech in Parliament today about the future of the NDIS. So what are the key points that you took away from what he said, and do his words fill you with hope?
Yeah, look, they do. And look, we're really encouraged to see the commitment to co-design and working with people with disability to make sure they are heard and that their contributions are included in the various regulations, rules and etc. that are going to have to take place over the next period of time. We hope that commitment remains embedded in the process and delivery across all governments over the next 5 years of this transition that we're talking about.
What more do you believe governments need to do then to achieve the best outcomes ultimately for people with disability?
We think it's really important that they listen to people with disability, not only those that are participants in the scheme, but also those that are outside of the scheme and are looking for levels of support which are provided for from the recommendations of the NDIS review. And we're hoping that they'll do that, continue to do that, and that all governments, as I said, take that into account in designing and looking at what are the best ways of providing additional supports for people with disability right across the community, not only those that are in the NDIS.
How important is it to listen to people outside of the disability community? We heard on Breakfast Radio this morning a lot of outrage about members of the public upset about $1,000 that was paid through NDIS for someone to attend a music concert. Should that commentary be fair, given that we hear other stories about people not being able to get a wheelchair?
Yeah, look, I think it's really interesting. You get some stories and you hear other stories. What we know is that the NDIS has made a tremendous difference in the lives of those participants that are part of that scheme. We think that that needs to continue, and we obviously think, like with anybody, it's got to pass the pub test. It's got to be things that are reasonable and necessary for people to get their supports for. And I would suggest that in the vast majority, that's exactly what it's delivering on currently. It can do more and it can be improved, and we want to be part of that process, working with the government and governments as we move along with these reforms.
Well, thank you so much for everything you do in that process, Ross. Thank you.
Thank you, Davia.